Hey there guys, so I just wanted to add a little segment to the beginning of the video, basically saying that all of this was written as well as recorded right before Stella Montis actually even was added to the game, so we're not going to be talking about that at all in this video, as well as a good chunk of my negatives have been fixed, which I do have a note about, but, some of it still applies to personally at least, so just keep that in mind, and if you guys enjoy this video, please give it a like and maybe even subscribe if you're feeling so kind, and let's get on with the video. Hey guys, it's Glitchy here, back with our regularly scheduled programming. Now, this wasn't actually going to be the video for this week originally, but I have become somewhat obsessed with this game, as at the time of writing this script, I bought the game about 48 hours ago and have almost 20 hours logged on the game known as Arc Raiders. Now, honestly, I wasn't even expecting myself to play this game at all. I, for the most part, am not a huge fan of games where you can have so much progress wiped out by what seems like pure chance. Especially when the games have an extremely high skill ceiling. Like, I tried out Tarkov like 2 years ago. You can only imagine how well that went, as the player base, for the most part, is pretty curated at this point. Not to mention, Tarkov, in my opinion, at the very least, is not very beginner-friendly, so if you told me that after all this time with my hopes and dreams getting crushed by all the bullshit going on with Marathon and Bungie at the moment, as well as my natural disdain for extraction shooters, I would end up becoming almost instantly addicted to this one. Because this game is basically the world's most effective slot machine. Now, to give even more background than my very short time with Tarkov, the last extraction shooter I actually put any amount of time into was actually DMZ in the more recent Modern Warfare 2, which I feel like I enjoyed a lot more because it was a new and unique Call of Duty experience more than the actual gameplay loop that it introduced. Some of the best parts of that mode were the fact that you could bring over some of the loot you had gotten in DMZ into the multiplayer. Like, I remember when it first launched, there was an exclusive weapon that you could obtain if you killed a specific boss and then extracted. Plus, since it was just the Warzone map at the time, you could have the entire map memorized and have plenty of fun just engaging in the PvE if you somehow managed to avoid enemy players throughout the entirety of the match. I think all of those things carry over to this game, especially the PvE aspect of this game, since apparently when the devs were first working on Arc Raiders, it was originally meant to be a PvE-centric game, not including PvP at all, as well as being much more lore and story-centric, and that's not saying that there isn't plenty of story here already, but it definitely feels like it was toned down in the final product. But from what I understand, I think they're going to be releasing a lot more content over time for free, since there is a location on the map that is inaccessible right now, and the game has barely hit 2 weeks old besides all the different playtests they had done. It's honestly quite surprising just how perfect of circumstances this game fell into the market with, since Bungie was most likely going to be the one and only true competitor to Arc Raiders with Marathon, and everything horrible happening with that, it pushed Arc into the limelight, even more so when COD decided to drop the same kind of ball that Bungie did, dropping off the face of the earth and even giving Arc Raiders free publicity by having any mention of this game in their game, Black Ops 7, becoming automatically redacted in chat. As much as everyone in the industry seemed to be afraid of this game, they also were the ones who basically forced it to succeed. That's what even brought it to my attention. I had seen this game absolutely everywhere before I finally decided to cave. Hell, I even got a friend to jump in with me, and we've been having the time of our lives, and now we've even got another friend of ours who's roped in as well. But with all this, I think I could finally start talking about the game, and with what seems like a classic statement, this will be a bit different from the last review. I don't have a whole lot of negatives about this game, so I really just want to talk about the different aspects of the game in a really deep dive. Then if I can come up with any negatives, then I'll bring that up at the end in a neat and hopefully not too tilted portion. So with that, let's get into our first chapter, the gameplay. Arc Raiders and all of its competitors have a pretty simple gameplay loop, and that is basically load into a map, find a bunch of resources and different loot, kill NPCs, and potentially engage in some PvP. Then At that point, it splits into two different forks: die and restart the loop, or find a safe space so that your player escapes the map back to a headquarters/title screen so you could store everything away, potentially upgrade some things that make life easier, and then jump back into the loop and do it all over again. What truly makes the gameplay unique in each of these loops is what actually happens inside of them, and Ark exemplifies the idea that each run is different because of how they have built every single map, as well as their progression system. With every single map, which at this point is only 4 with a 5th on the way, is extremely unique and does not feel the same as another in any way, even down to the actual extraction points besides one map. It has its own identity and feels designed in a way to make the gameplay itself unique, whether it be hiding in the foliage of damn battlegrounds, sliding down dunes on Buried City, running through warehouses on Spaceport, or exploring facilities on the Blue Gate. This isn't even mentioning the fact that every single map can have quite a few different modifiers applied that affect how you're going to be tackling the map itself, changing the map so there is more greenery, more broken down robots, more probes that come down from the sky, or the caches of raiders left behind that will explode if you leave them alone for long enough. This is only the maps. There is so much more depth in how the game works in that fashion that even before you load in, there is some level of consideration in the player creating an entire new level of gameplay before you're even using the controller. I also love the different ways the weather can affect gameplay as well, with each map being placed on a timer where you can potentially load into a nighttime version of the map where there are a lot more arcs, as well as, at least in my experience, there will be a lot more players looking to get into a fight. Although I don't load into too many night raids because I personally don't find them too enjoyable, I will always load into the stormy versions of the map because the storms will cover up a lot of the noise you as a player make and will disrupt the arcs since they'll get struck by lightning and will leave you with even more loot to find around the map. All of these mechanics as well as effects on the map are extremely important and actually serve some level of purpose besides just reskinning the map slightly and calling it new content. They help players get more of specific items. They have some new challenges that can give you either an advantage or prove to be your downfall. You can almost see the passion pouring out through your screen as you play in the world, but in only talking about the worlds you'll be exploring, I haven't even been able to talk about the guns. The way the game plays when you actually load in. Every single time you're about to load into a map, you're able to make a decision before you even start. And it is extremely important because it's high or low stakes gambling, baby. Yeah, I love gambling. But in all seriousness, you can either make a genuine loadout or go in with a random free loadout that'll give you a gun, a shield, ammo, and some utility items. Free loadouts are the low stakes gamble I talked about earlier, and there's almost no risk in taking a free loadout and is honestly one of the most fun ways to experience the game. They allow you to be a lot more risky in your playstyle, as well as make the drop in dopamine levels much less harsh. Die on a free loadout? Just run it back with another one until you get out and do it all over again. Hell, the devs knew exactly what they were doing, so they made it to where if you have a successful run with a free loadout, then you can exchange it for a normal loadout you'd normally have to craft. While you have a huge advantage with taking a free loadout into any map and it being low stakes, there are certainly more advantages with creating your own loadout and running in with better gear. Creating your own loadout makes it so you can actually bring items that pertain to what you specifically do. Not to mention, all loadouts besides the free one have a space that will guarantee make it with you even if you die. This is useful because even if you bring in something like a key for a locked space inside of a map, you won't lose it even if you have an unlucky run. I usually use them for keys or rarer items I find in any map, especially if I go on a solo run and want to bring a hatch key. But this doesn't even include the fact that with making your own loadout, you can bring a lot more heals as well as other utility items like zip lines or different grenades that serve different purposes. Weapons also play a huge role before you load in because if you take a free loadout, you'll get one of the 4 main common weapons, and they'll affect what you can even accomplish when it comes to combat. You get a heavy weapon that'll make arc combat a bit easier, but it's going to make PvP a bit more difficult since the common heavy weapon only has 1 bullet in the magazine. get either of the light weapons and it'll make arc combat a bit harder while making some of the PvP encounters easier. The almost perfect in-between spot is the medium weapon, where it'll be a decent balance between heavy and light, where you can fight players and arcs pretty effectively, but this isn't to say you can't make almost any weapon in any scenario work. But some weapons fit a lot more than others. My personal favorite is the green heavy weapon, the Anvil, a revolver that does really great damage, as well as it has a decent fire rate, so then no matter what you're fighting, they're going to feel it. I feel like there are so many layers to this game before you even load in, so many things to consider for what your playstyle may be, but finally I want to talk about the actual game. I promise I won't talk about the systems before you even get into the fun part of the game. Gameplay. It's fun. But really, the game has great systems in almost every perspective. Since the game is in third person, you're able to see your own character and even the status of yourself whenever you're damaged or tired or over encumbered. Not to mention, when you're looting, you're clearly able to hear what you're doing at all times and can even look over your shoulders as you're breaching things or searching through a container. And if you can hear it, then other players can too. While you're exploring, you're going to be finding a lot of different ways of looting, whether it be rummaging through drawers or breaching objects, which take time to get into. All of these make a varying amount of noise, as well as, depending on where you're looting, have a different loot pool of things to pull from. There's a bunch of different types of loot that I won't get into. Like, you go into a hospital, you're going to find medical supplies. You go into a power station, you'll find electronics. That kind of system goes a long way, since you actually have a way to focus your search for items so you can upgrade whatever you may be trying to upgrade. Hell, I spent like 5 hours trying to find 3 toasters to upgrade one of the tables in the workshop, and I have never felt so accomplished. But back to the act of looting in the gameplay loop. After you've gotten your shit, you need to escape, and all over the map is going to be different points that will close after a set amount of time, which means the longer you're looting, the more likely you're going to run into someone at the final elevator back to safety. This adds a sense of urgency when you're playing. If you don't want to fight people, then you want to get out ASAP, and this is a lot easier if you're just running to a spot looking for one item than leaving whether you find it or not. But if your greed consumes you and your pockets are fat, bring that high stakes gamble into play. Do you stay until the last elevator is about to close and risk losing it all? Or did you plan ahead and bring a raiding hatch key so then you can make a sneaky getaway? PvP in this game is honestly something I thought I wasn't going to like at all, but I have grown accustomed to it, and I enjoy it a lot. Mostly because a lot of the players in this game so far don't want to fight. Lots and lots of players just also want to hop on, get some loot, and escape, have a good time. There are even built-in emotes in this game, so you can try and plead for someone not to shoot at you. This doesn't even include the flawless voice chat in this game, so you can actually speak to people you're either killing, befriending, or getting gutted by. Some of my favorite moments have come from players banding together with me to make sure everyone gets out safely and having fun doing so. Even when I get knocked or knock out another player, the combat feels so satisfying with every single gun, even the common ones being very strong even without attachments, that every gun has a positive and a negative associated with it, and they all have different play styles. Everything just feels so good. I can't believe I found myself enjoying this section of the game so much when I expected myself to absolutely loathe it coming off of my Tarkov experience. Ark feels so much more welcoming than any other extraction experience in its gameplay, and I guess this can be attributed to the fact that the game has just come out, and as many sweats as there could be, there are probably 3 times more people that have no idea what they're doing. But with all of the gameplay out of the way, I want to talk about the actual world and what little story there is inside of the game. Like, more of the feel, the vibe, what you're consuming with your eyes and ears. Arc Raiders is an exemplary showing of just what a studio with some fucking time on their hands can do. In 6 years, you could see that they took all that time, and it feels like not a second was wasted, as there is a clear art style and feeling for every single map in the game. Dam Battlegrounds is such a great starting location to get you introduced to the world, having at least one of every single area type in the game, and having great landmarks that stand out My personal favorite is the Research and Administration building, which has a giant tower you can get to the top of. But you need to get through an elevator that has multiple turrets, so if you don't take them out, you'll just be stuck at the top. Also, another point of this map is to show you just how far humanity has fallen in the war against the Arcs. You can find broken down war machines as well as smaller units all over the map. It really sells you the broken down, war-torn world, since you'll be stuck here for the very least 8 rounds, so you can even make it to the buried city, where the game shows you how a specific residential area has been abandoned and, well, buried. With no one keeping up maintenance, the desert was able to overcome the city, and this makes it so you can travel across the rooftops easily, since all the dunes reach up so high, which is funny because the only way to extract is if you go deep underground into the subway tunnels to take trains back to the headquarters. Also, a side tangent, but I've barely talked about Speranza, which is the underground city that all raiders and what is left of humanity is holed up inside of. You can see people walking through the small, bustling streets when you're trying to interact with the different traders, as well as being able to enter a bustling area when you're about to launch. This isn't even mentioning that when you're leaving Speranza to go into the top side, that there's a cutscene that plays where you actually get to see your raider being loaded into a tube to be shot into the map that you're going to, which in our case is going to bring us to the third map, Spaceport. I personally find this to be the weakest aesthetically, but it still proves a purpose in world building and storytelling, which is that humanity was extremely close to getting away from the Earth, since this game is set in the far future, and at this point you can only imagine how many people wanted to get away from the world because of what was going on. And in some of the hidden lore that you could find, you could see that some people did actually make it out, being the richest and the most high people in the world. And Spaceport is full of areas dedicated to spacecraft construction, so you're mostly going to be finding industrial parts as well as electronics. And this is also the map that uses the normal elevator from Dam Battlegrounds, and I really feel like it does a damaging blow to this map since there isn't a whole lot of identity past that. Moving on to my personal favorite and currently the last map that is available, the Blue Door. I absolutely love the aesthetics of this map. The greenery, as well as it is basically constantly raining on this map with deep underground facilities as well as a ginormous satellite dish POI. You could see that some of the most bustling areas of a far gone humanity have become a beautiful pasture now. Seeing broken down homes as people who have been displaced for so long, rummaging through people's homes like a rat searching for cheese. Also, since the area is so high up in the mountains, you actually need to take ventilation shafts to get back down to Speranza. Also, just to add, I feel like this one takes the longest to open up to escape. Either that or I have crippling anxiety when I have God's greatest loot stash sitting in my fat pockets. And the last map hasn't even come out yet at the time of recording this, and it already has plenty of aura surrounding it. Stella Montis is being described currently as a tunnel system that has been completely trapped and blocked off, so I can only imagine what is waiting for us inside of whatever facility lies at the end of the tunnel. But I think that covers my thoughts on the actual feel of the maps and the gameplay, so may as well start talking about what I don't really like. Honestly, I don't have a whole lot of negatives for this game, but one of them is a pretty major one. The monetization of this game already seems like it's going to be egregious. This game already has a battle pass as well as plenty of outfits inside of the store for this game, and we have already been at this point in gaming where not even paid games are afraid to charge so much more money besides the original price tag. And here I was hoping that Arc Raiders would be different, since at this point we need games to actually stand out from the rest of the corporate slop. Thankfully, there hasn't been any AI abuse, at least from what I have seen, but this isn't an issue exclusive to Arc Raiders, and I don't want to get too deep into it. And my other issue is that there are plenty of moments where I have clipped through objects and have been able to stand on top of rocks, and I've had half of my model be inside the rock and half of it isn't. This doesn't happen all the time, especially when it counts, but it happened enough for me to want to mention it here. And when the game has been in development for 6 years, I expect polish on every surface of the game, whether or not I was hyped for its release, especially when they had so many fucking playtests and betas where I'm sure they got plenty of feedback for this kind of stuff. This doesn't even add collision issues where out of nowhere my character won't want to mount onto an object or can't walk up a straight incline. It's really fucking annoying, especially when you run into these kinds of issues when you're in the middle of a gunfight or fighting the arcs. I have had so many runs end in ruin because the collision made a decision to stop working or fuck me over completely. Once again, tell me how many playtests this game had, and apparently not a single person had pointed out any of these issues to the devs. This isn't an issue of needing more time, I feel. This is more of a prioritization issue more than anything else. Most likely, a lot of effort went into improving gameplay and getting more content ready for the game since it wasn't out yet, but I'm sure these issues will be fixed in time, and then a lot of my negatives are going to be fixed, besides the continued issue of a $40 game being monetized even further into the ground. But all in all, though, I've been enjoying the game a lot, and I've had a lot of fun with friends as I've been playing, and I do wish that there were 4-man squads instead of 3, but I think they made it that way so then every map wouldn't be flooded with people, as well as making every single extraction point an active war zone. So to end it out, what do you think of Arc Raiders? Leave a comment letting me know your thoughts and what your favorite map is, and if you felt so kind, please like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And I'll see you when I see you. This is Glitchy, signing off.